with him later. So I am going to record this conversation. If you share some secret sauce that you don't want getting out there on YouTube, then it's only going to go to the people in this chat. But otherwise, I typically do try to upload these. So first thing that I'm going to share, just to kind of make sure that we're rocking and rolling here. I'm going to show something, and this doesn't look very much like a spread offense, but we have balanced a lot of 11P with just a little bit of 21P in what we do. And so, again, shout out to my guy Mike that I referenced earlier, the Big Show. One thing that we've done in every offense I've had a say in since 2008 is something that I got from a buddy that used to be at Wisconsin. And we have run a version of power where it's not different, I'm sure, than something a lot of guys do. But we will run a version of power where we get the traditional kick out, get this pull, but we bring an extra puller behind it to fit. So, it's been a great play for me over the years. And like the kid I'm asking to do it right here, number 10, he's not a fullback. He's not a tight end. Guys, I remind you, put yourself on mute, please, if you're not sharing. This kid was just one of our receivers that was willing to block. I'm not asking him to go ISO a linebacker. I'm not asking him to kick out a defensive end. All I need him to do is follow the guard and have his eyes pinned for a safety or a late scraping, a late scraper there. So this clip is from a couple years ago, and literally we just started in the twins formation here with him out in the slot. We motioned him in to get him set. And then you can see here he's not quite as patient as I'd like for him to be, and the tailback's maybe just a little bit fast. But what we're trying to get here really is trying to get 71. There's an overhang right out here that we want him to insert on, and 10 now should fit for the first safety or scrape player coming from that backside. So it allows us to account for an extra hat in short yardage situations, and it's always been something that we try to carry coming out, going in, and short yardage in the middle of the field. We can do it with no tight end. We can, flex with two sniffers essentially in the backfield. Like I said, we can start here in a 20 or a 21 motion and bring an extra guy in right here. But it's something that after tonight, if you'd be interested in me, talking to you a little bit about, I can definitely school you up on it. It's been very productive for us. That's going to be the same game, I believe. This is one. And you can see here, this is to seal a game on 3rd and 2. It's at the end of the game. You can see there's 11 bodies in the box, and the kid that I have backside here, honestly, was all I had. And he doesn't even damn touch anybody right here. But when you talk about the scheme, because guys, we unfortunately have not been a heavy power team. I would love to call power 30 times a game, but it hadn't necessarily fit my personnel. But we keep it for short yardage. And so like here, the guard pulls a little bit wide. I'd like to see him insert here on 42. And now my second guy around is either going to end up on 9 if he falls off, or all the way backside on this backside safety. And you can see that if the tailback's patient and my backside guy gets there in time and gets to number 9, we're one-on-one now with this safety with the chance to not just ice the game, but to really bust it wide open. We like it on the goal line, same situation, same game. Tight end kind of botches it here, but we like getting that extra hat to the point of attack. This one's from a couple years ago, just us doing it under center. It presents itself a little bit differently. A lot of times I feel like it times up a little bit better under center, but it gives me a chance to kind of attack some angles and do some different things. We can run it strong, we can run it weak, but that's one version of power that I know I have tried to always carry. We've got some guys asking a few different questions here. One, if in the pistol, do you reverse out with the quarterback? So we don't when we're in pistol. We go ahead and we go front side. But I think a lot of that, especially in the spread, is really going to depend on who if you're trying to RPO and who you're trying to RPO. I know Coach Cheatham said they've done both before. And so there's a little discussion going on about that. And Coach Corley brings up a good point. It depends on your back. If your back understands the footwork and is patient, reversing out can help you. When I was under center, I always reversed out on power. If the back is too quick to the hole and you're having a hard time slowing him down, I do think that opening right to it definitely helps. So moving on real quick before I quit talking and turn it over to you guys. So I had a coach, like I said, he sent me some questions and he sent me some pictures. And Coach Fields, I know you're on here, and I'm pretty sure he sent you the same ones. So if I phrase these questions wrong, make sure that you help correct me. So he's a good coach. He's been in some real good programs and is now at a new program, and the head man wants things blocked a little bit differently than he may have blocked it in the past. So one of the things they talked about in an even front is, how many of you guys – block it the way everybody would. And I don't know why my puller got erased right there, but RPO or read off of the nickel here. Is that pretty standard for most of you guys that are going to run this, or do more of you prefer that backside bang 8 and to read that backside safety? Do we have any preferences in that?
I think in my previous years of being a coordinator, I've always been reading that backside safety just because we didn't really have much of a vertical threat. So if I get to put somebody in a bind and kind of get a +1, I'm going to go ahead and take it. But this coming season, we're all reading for the most part. Obviously there's always your anomalies, but we're going to be reading that spur or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, we have predominantly read the front side. I have not had a lot of success with that glance post on the backside, probably because I'm not coaching it right. And that was kind of one of the things he was more accustomed to reading that glance. For me, I like having flexibility on the front side, whether I want to bubble it or I want to just run, hitches or work some kind of downfield RPO, a smash or a squeeze concept. I've always liked that versatility, so I've always read it off the front side.
Are you pre-snap or post-snap reading that RPO?
So if it's a key screen, it's going to be pre-snap. If we're anything downfield, it's going to be post-snap for us for how we do it.
So if you're post-snap, Pete, you would same side power that, correct?
So I've done it both ways. For us, we won't do it as much out of the pistol, especially if we're going to downfield RPO. We'll do it here. So our back is going to be patient. He's going to step lateral, and then we're trying to get his shoulder square to A gap because that's where we want him to end up. So that's how I would read it if I'm working downfield right there. We have also run power, especially against a 4-man front. But even against an odd front, I like running power weak too. And bringing, it's all about what the quarterback's comfortable with. Running power left here with the quarterback, the tailback coming across and the quarterback still reading that overhang. Some kids are just more comfortable doing that. If your kid's comfortable, I like this because you can get him on platform for the throw, right? We're going to catch that snap. We're going to turn our hips to that tailback. And so I'm already on platform for now. If this guy wants to attack, I can replace him with the ball behind him. Right. So that's how we've done it, Coach.
Are you doing are you just running double hitch and stick and things like that, or snag?
We've got different things that we kind of carry on our menu. And honestly, like this past year, I didn't do a ton of downfield stuff. And it had more to do with the fact that my quarterback was 5'10" and my O-line was 6'5", and so if it was happening on the outside, he could see it. We'd go fade out. We go, squeeze concept. We're just trying to work that thin route. But anything that I was asking him to run the pop or the slant, if he was going to struggle to see it, it wasn't in the call sheet. Yeah. And so that's always played a role in my decision making.
Well, see, I'm with the coach we're talking about. We've always read backside.
Yep.
We'll put a key to the front side, so we'll pre-snap front and we'll post that back. This is definitely interesting to me. I mean, the same side power, you can really put that guy in a bind, but I think once you change it over to an odd front, it gets a little bit confusing.
It can get a little bit. If you're working if you're working same side power against an odd front, I definitely think it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Getting some guys. The chat's blowing up, so feel free. If you got a question for me, just say it. But everybody else, man, keep going in on that chat. But yeah, I know I just saw one of the coaches said snag on the front side is dirty, and I agree with him. I'm a big fan, especially again if your quarterback's having some issues with maybe the vision. Whether you want a true snag with a post, or excuse me, a corner, or you want a post or even basic number two, given the snag right here, it is a great way, because he's not going to see number one, right? He may feel two, and if he feels the vertical release, he may get a little box happy. But I think it's a great way to attack that space. I think throwing the corner out in particular, because if the corner gets happy here, you've always got a chance. I also think that if you're going to run any type of snag off of like a play action, why not carry it as an RPO off of this same look? So the next question he had to deal more with an odd front. And so, one of the things you talked about is they'll get a lot of that strong side Viper or nickel or Sam or whatever you want to call him. A lot of times they'll remove the two so they can try to maintain a two shell. And so one of the things that he talked about was, has anybody ever tried to work a combo here with the tight end and the tackle back so that you can still pull for the mic and then again still kind of operate off this guy? If he's down, it's easy. You kick him. But if he's out, being able to work a combo back. Has anybody ever tried to work that in their run scheme?
I have, but we called that, we sifted that to the mic and let the backside guard go back up to the wheel.
Back to the wheel. And that's what I think. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I know, Coach, we were joking earlier where you've been the past couple of years. Y'all certainly run a ton of power. Did you do it pistol? Was he offset weak? Was he offset strong? Where was the back usually?
We did it both ways, just game to game. But Matt really preferred front side belly look.
Yeah, I like that as well. I wondered if bringing him across the quarterback gave you flow, where it makes it easier on the wheel, or to get to the wheel. Or
if it went back, we were going to read that wheel for an insert and stick or snag something on the backside.
That makes sense.
Account for him.
Yeah,
but we did that SIF call too, so I could handle it made that consistent with the 3-5 teams. When they go stack, we could combo that tight end or the tackle would combo up to the Sam, and then I could always keep the guard on a tight skip pull.
Yep.
Up to the first great player he saw, so that way he didn't float.
I will say one thing that I've really been intrigued by is if you guys are familiar, I'm losing my mind right now. I should have reached out to him and tried to get him on here. But if you're familiar with Gabe Fertitta at Catholic down in Baton Rouge, it's a fantastic program, and he does a good job. And he's an old O-line guy, but he's the head coach now. They've done some stuff in the past with 4 eyes in particular with this sniffer and B-gap where they will combo this 4-eye with the tackle and the sniffer, with the sniffer coming from the inside. And now they're working their combo out to the overhang. I know I've seen him present on it, and he's got an article, I believe, on X&O Labs with some cut-ups. And it's a really cool way to attack 4 eyes. For us, I felt like it was too expensive with us not being a big gap scheme team. But I think if power's a play that you're going to hang your hat on, it's a great way to deal with 4 eyes, because that's always the deal, I think, with odd fronts is how are we going to handle those ends and how are we going to handle the overhangs.
So,
yes, sir.
Do any of you guys put the back weak and read the wheel? Again, we only do this against odd fronts, but we're going to run a little bend behind the wheel, but we're going to put the back on away right there. And
so you're going to take this receiver, try to replace the wheel, and you're going to bring the back across right there.
Wes, we did that last year, but instead of throwing the RPO off of it, we'd stretch run our T and then read it with the quarterback. And if the wheel wants to chase the T out there, then the quarterback was going to keep it for quarterback power.
Yeah, because we just kill the nose. You know,
Yep.
the left guard in the center, or the right guard in the center, kill the nose. And but no, I like that, bringing him across and throwing it that way too.
So in 2017, and I think Coach Cassidy's on here, and he may remember this because we did it against them. But we would run power, and they're an odd front, and they do a really good job, and they move dudes, and they give you a lot of problems. But we ran it weak against those guys. If I can get my freaking huddle right. And what we did was we brought the back across, and we were going to lock on that backside end, but we ran it with the two receivers. So now we're looking to replace there, and then with the slant on the outside. And we ran it like that. And our thing was, if they want to walk that Viper out or that linebacker out, we're RPOing off of him. As soon as he's down at the line of scrimmage, it probably means whether it's happening now or happening late that we're getting this, and now we're just RPOing off this guy, especially if teams want to rotate late. So we've done a lot of that weak before. I have not done a lot of it strong and working off that single receiver. But it makes complete sense, obviously.
Against 3-4, I really like that formation. We really like that formation right there. Working against an odd front, really, and putting that Sam in a conflict, the overhang in a conflict.
Yes,
we really like that.
That's the thing is against most odd fronts, or at least against a lot of defenses. I mean, especially at the high school level, right? I'm a big believer in grounding a tight end versus an odd front to dictate where that backer's got to be, right? And so we will do a lot of tray, a lot of nub tight end stuff against an odd front because I want to dictate where the guy is, or try to control him as much as I can. But I agree with you, Trip. I think this is a good formation. Counter back to the two receiver side. I love putting the twins into the boundary here with the power to the field and stacking those guys up. And whether I'm working a downfield RPO or a key screen, just again, make them make a decision about what they want to do with this backer. And once they've made that decision, now what are they doing to, how does that affect their back end? And then obviously it's all about just having a plan after that. Third question that Coach had was asking if anybody has done this. And I've done it as a 21P team. I've never done it out of like an 11P look with the sniffer, where you actually look to insert both guys. If you get the Sam removed, insert on the mic, pull for that wheel, and base. Obviously, you're expecting to get a 5 technique right there or something head up. Has anybody ever tried to double insert from an 11P? Have you had success with it, Coach?
Yeah, we did. But that was our answer. Our quarterback play was not as good this year, so that's one of the ways we handled squeeze scrape on power.
Mm-hmm.
They're over squeezing. Of course, our tackles were pretty good the last.
Yes, they were.
So we felt like our tackle could, they both can play power 5, so they could block the end. We could, handle the combo inside, and then we really worked on that guard being able to tight skip pull that, and it worked out for us. The only problem was we'd get a lot of when they try to mic run through. It wasn't always. It's not as gap sound. It's just true power.
That's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, on paper, if your tackle can handle the end, I like it. And part of the reason that we talked about this, I guess I should probably preface, right, is in a perfect world, we want to double the nose back to the wheel and maybe lock this backside tackle or gap hinge him. But when they start bringing that weak side backer down onto the line of scrimmage, if you go down with the guard, choke back to that 4-eye, or that's probably spiking, and then, gap hinge or out for that weak side linebacker, it leaves you without the ability to get to the wheel. But if you insert here, you get both of them. And as long as they're willing to, play a too high structure or play with an overhang and not play him tight, you've got an opportunity. And then obviously when he comes down, you have to be able to take advantage of something on the outside. So
what we've done is when we install it day one, we tell that play side tackle that if that end is thick, we call it thick and wide, if he is thick on you and you can take care of him, take him where he wants to go, all you have to do is make a mongoose call, and that's an auto double insert. So instead of having, 2 separate plays for it, what we've done with that is just go ahead, mongoose, mongoose, mongoose. That's telling everybody that, hey, we're double inserting now, which sets up your Y down the field later.
Yeah, I'm going to call you later because I want to know how we got to mongoose as a code.
Listen, because so if you put that Y on the left side, he's got a long neck. I don't know, man. 8 years, 10 years later, you never know.
Pete, if we double insert, that's because we're going to RPO to the front side.
Okay, that makes sense, right? Double insert. And so let me ask you this, Ben. If you get a 4-eye right there and B gap is closed, is he going to just work around for the mic as tight as he can, expecting to get scraped? Or?
No, what we tell our guys, and this is because our O-line coach is like, we want to run power A gap. It is like a true double team. If that guy tries to spike, we're just going to double team him and just get in the way of that mic and make that mic have to make a decision to play over the top.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. But like you were talking about Gabriel with Fertitta, our staff actually went down there before this past season, and that's where we got that from. They do a real nice job. Now, the players they have, there's
Hilaire Edwards from LSU is from there. Who was what's his name? Geis from the year before is from there. They roll out talent pretty consistently, but they're also well coached and they do some interesting things with their scheme.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that you're talking about, when you get that tight front, one thing we started doing was, we'd manipulate power is off the backside. And if we wanted to, reverse them out, is the tackle would cut that 4-eye on the backside. And if we'd read that joker, if he wanted to crash, then the quarterback would pull it.
Pull it. Yeah. And that's we did that a little bit in 18 against certain teams because we had, the kid we had at quarterback was an athlete. He's playing safety at Army now. And so it made sense for us. So I'm with you on that, Coach. I do like that because it allows you, if you're doing that, it allows you to keep your double team now, cut here and now read off the guy weak. And it's a good way to handle it. But the next question is actually another way that I think is a good way to handle it, right? So if we're getting that tight front or we're getting 4 eyes or a bear look essentially, and they're covering down and everything's here, right, getting man free or something like that. You're asking a lot of that center to get back to a really explosive 3 technique. And again, you're not able to get to the wheel now because you're pulling for the mic and everybody else is accounted for. So one of the questions that Coach had, does anybody ever just automatic check to essentially dart now? And you do?
Yes, sir.
So how does it – and so I guess, and you've already kind of alluded to this, Wes, was you like bringing the back from the weak side and bringing him across the formation. So it probably doesn't affect timing much for you. Anybody in the pistol or have the back same side that finds that they have to now adjust the back's footwork?
No, Pete, that's how we run power every play.
Really?
Don't pull guards. I don't like backside. I don't like B-gap run-throughs.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so that right there takes care of – that's how we run shovel. That's how we run dash. That's we don't pull guards, unless we're going to run GT.
Yeah, interesting. So, Coach Cope, so it's an automatic tag for you or it's how you always run it?
Whether we're in the pistol or we're sidecar like that, because we run power both ways.
Mm-hmm.
If the tackle doesn't think he can gap hinge, he's a tight 3.
He just gives the call.
He's going to tell him. And if we're in the pistol, our philosophy is, if that guy's coming from, if he's on the end of the line of scrimmage, that's one thing. But if he's coming from more than a yard, if our back can't outrun that joker to the line of scrimmage, we're getting our ass kicked anyway.
Yeah. Amen.
And so I'm not saying, and we've had him run down before.
Yep.
With us, whether it's in the pistol or sidecar, either one, if we get a tight, a 3 or a tight 4-eye, we're just going to turn it into the dart and make it because it's safe.
Yeah, it's a good way to handle it. I know I've never majored in dart, and I've, to my own fault, tried to mess around with it before and never really had a ton of success with. I feel like it's one of those things that you need to major in a little bit. But if you're a team that also runs GT, you're really not asking that tackle to do much different than you would if you're running GT.
Right.
So, because that's what it's all about to me is repping it and carrying it over
I
to
think
make
the best
sure.
way to do this, Pete, is to bash this.
Is bash it with I don't at all disagree with you here. So working bash here, read him with quarterback power out the back door.
Yeah, shuffle.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think, if you're like me and your quarterback's fragile and if you're like me and your quarterback's fragile and you can't afford to lose him, I think even just trying to eye candy it can be effective as well. Add some jet motion.
You could run shovel off of that too.
You definitely could.
And bring the Y underneath.
Yeah, you definitely could. Yeah. Or even find a way to, because I've always been a big fan of starting a guy out and bringing him in, so we'll take this guy, we'll move him in to run our little power, but now, same deal, and you RPO off that guy, send your H back out into the flat, maintain your true power game to the strong side, and it's an easy RPO read. You give just enough eye candy to slow him down, makes it tough. You bring him into the backfield and plant him behind the tackle or in B gap. I don't think you're going to get this. At least not outside leverage. You may get him getting a little bit tighter to the box. I may be wrong on that. So, well, those are the things that like I said, somebody had asked me to discuss with you guys, and so I kind of like. I think we're all kind of on the same page on a lot of it. I like the idea, like you guys that do pull that tackle on the backside. It makes a ton of sense for me. So who else has the goods, man? Who's got something to share? Because I'm done talking. I'm ready to take notes. Anybody got some good one-back power stuff you can share? 10P, 11P, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I got some good stuff. Let me give me a second just to pull some stuff up for you.
I mean, we do some power read stuff. I got it from Penn State, where we'll be in 2x2. We move the back and bring jet across.
Yep.
Kind of like Cam Newton back in the day from Malzahn. We had a lot of success with that, but I mean, that's nothing special. I think everybody.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm going to show is something similar to that, but we have a bunch of different ways to get into it. Because we'll do the jet across. We'll also do it with the running back. We'll do it with our the running back on the same side that we're going, and then we'll run it with the toss. We'll do it with speed option. So we'll do it a whole bunch of different ways and get that power read, and we can kind of just change who we read up, and we call it our amphibian series. But it was pretty good for us last year. You just give me a second to pull it up. Granted, we also had a quarterback who's playing running back in college, so I guess that helped us a little bit.
Did you find yourself running the Q more than handing the ball off?
We did, and that was kind of what we wanted. I mean, our quarterback had 20-something rushing touchdowns last year, and our running back only had like 4. So our quarterback was a glorified running back, basically.
Just become a single wing.
Oh, shit. Huddle's on hold. We didn't pay our bill this month. Sorry, guys.
Oh man, you got to get on that.
I got to get on Drew. Sorry.
All good. So, Trent, do you mind showing some of the stuff you're talking about?
Yeah, I pulled up. Give me 1 second. McPeak's gonna love it because most of it's against Douglas. All right.
Did a great job, I guess.
All right, here we go.
Do y'all have my screen right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
So do you see? It's not highlighting anything. Do you see my huddle playbook?
Yes.
Okay, so while Coach Fields is bringing that up, I figured I'd fill an empty zone there. So really, the only thing that we do that's kind of unique, I guess, we have 2 things that we do that are fairly unique when regards to one gap or one back power. If we're, we face whenever we had a team or a defense to the field, what we would get a lot is, a nickel blitz and stuff like that. And if our tackle was smart enough, which this past season he wasn't, but we would get an auto 20-20-20 call. And what that meant was that we were going to lock on our front side guys up here. I think if you have the right screen, is that correct?
Yes.
So our end and our tackle and our guard on front side, we're going to lock on, and it was just going to become a long trap. And then that's all we were going to do with that. And it was just a way for us to kind of count for that dude.
Yeah.
We were still letting the linebacker, the Mike, necessarily come free. But since it's a longer path, our whole cutback, that's what we lived off of with it. It is, look, push, F, and then cut back late, and you'll fall for, a pile of dust.
So was the F basically reading that Mike?
Yeah. He wasn't reading the triangle or anything cute about that. You take your eyes to the Mike now once you have the ball. And if he's behind you, go ahead and dust him. If he's even with you, cut him. The other thing that we would do, let's make this dude a backer now, is that if we had – it's not a true power scheme, but if we had, let's say, Zorro called or whatever, it's just another way for us to cheat, pull some dudes and make it look really nice and fancy. And we do it out of 2-back and 1-back, is we would actually just call a wrap, and 2 dudes are the nut and 2 dudes are the bolt. And so right here, our tackle, our play side tackle, our right tackle, and our center are going to be the nut. So they're going to lock on this dude. So let me put him more in a 4 eyes when we would expect it to be called. And so what we're doing is he's right here, and we're just allowing these dudes to come off right now. He's here. You're inserting into an A gap right here. So that was something that was super cheap. It's not true power, but
it's a little bit of a pin and pull.
Yeah, that's what it is, and it kind of morphs into that. But it was just an easy check for us because, 1-back power against an odd front like we're talking about is pretty difficult in terms of the alignment of that end. But it allowed us to free up some dudes and get in space for our F, who's a pretty talented cat.
Yeah.
So it's nothing unique or nothing crazy, but figured since Coach Fields had to bring up some stuff, I'd fill some airspace there.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. So what I've got up here, we start out in 2x2 to get the box we want. We started doing this in 3x2, and we had some success with it. But we felt like if we started out in 2x2 and moved the back, we would have better success. And we found out that ended up being true. So we're just running power read right here. We're gonna read the front side C gap, and what we tell the back and the number 2, our slot receiver here, is we're gonna work to this nickel, and we're gonna double up to that safety. So we want to get 2 bodies on 1 and react late to that safety, because we want to at least, if we hand this ball off, we want to at least get 5 yards minimum, because we feel pretty confident we can outrun the Mike if he spills over top. Shuffle. If he squeezes, we're given no matter what.
So obviously, okay, here we go. That's what I was going to ask. Where's the tailback lining up? So you just want him outside the tackles, all you care about?
Yeah, and it'll be week to week. So, against our rival where they have all of our film, they started essentially mesh charging. So we had to set – we put our inside foot on the outside foot of the tackle. Whereas this is the first time we ran it, we set it deep. So it varies week to week. We try to give a different look every week when we're trying to do it.
Yeah. But you're keeping the rules the same for the kids, which makes it easy.
Yeah. For the offensive line, nothing changes. It's just the same stuff over and over again. I was going to show one. Let me pull it up.
With the back being out that wide, are you able to keep things in the playbook to kind of protect that scheme if they start spinning to it or something as soon as he motions?
Yeah, we didn't have to, though. I'm not going to lie, because we just didn't do this a ton. We didn't rely on it.
Yep.
But we developed some play action late in the year that really protected it. And we plan on running this quite a bit more this year. So yes, we have to play action this because that's what happens. They spin. and they force you to give the football, and then they spin down, and you just don't have a hat right there.
Yeah.
But you can burn them if you have the play action off of it. But this is the same thing, just pushing it back out, and we go trips into the boundary, and doing the exact same thing. It's just putting your athletes in space, putting your athletes in grass. Another way we did it is instead of moving the back out, I don't know if it's on this playlist. Here we go. Instead of moving the back out, what we did is we put him in a sniff set. So we got set. We're late on the camera. Got set. They set their box, moved them up into a sniffer set, and did the exact same thing, just arc it. So essentially, we're doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, except it looks different. It's presented different to the defense. We should have ran it more when you look back on the year. But again, if our quarterback gets hurt, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Had to protect him.
Yeah, I try to put mine in bubble wrap Saturday through Thursday. Anybody else got any whether it's a power read variation or just a power variation in general?
I got some.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Sure. You want to go, Coach?
Wow, we got time. Go ahead and knock it out.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So get Coach Fields back. It's against Lexington Catholic. I'm just kidding. So we got this from Penn State and Kentucky. We do a lot of 11 stuff as well. We couldn't throw it in the Atlantic Ocean last year, so we always got heavy boxes. But we had a really good offensive line. But we just played with this. We'd run it with no motion and motion, but we would run power read and gain an extra hat by having the guard wrap like power and the tight end wrapping for any leakage up to the safety. So we just added motion to it.
And add the extra puller.
Yeah, with our fly motion, got some eye candy with it. It was pretty good to us in the playoffs too. And we're still just power reading, all right, with that C-gap defender with the quarterback. So if that C-gap would come to the Q, we just run outside zone. But with the motion, obviously we didn't want to give the ball because we're outnumbered with that. So pretty much it was predetermined by the quarterback, but he still did a good job of faking. All right, so we just gained an extra hat that way with the tight end wrapping. And it was really good as a change up for us off of our traditional power scheme where we'll just have him kick out in the C-gap. I have some cut-ups. That's just us running it. All right, but there's some cut-up of Penn State and some Kentucky running it as well. Kentucky did a lot of it with Lynn Bowden this year. But it's a pretty simple play, but I like it against really against a lot of odd fronts as well because you gain that extra hat with that puller and the tight end and the guard.
Well, one of the things I like about it is so many teams off the jet motion especially run they run counter back the other way, but it's another constraint play for your jet game to run power read back the other way. It's a nice wrinkle.
Yeah, so Penn State actually gave us this when they were playing against Josh Allen at Kentucky. The O-line coach basically, we're lucky enough that they're recruiting a couple of our guys. So he was like, we can't block Josh Allen, so we're just going to read him. So they just kind of drew this play up in the dirt actually, all right, and it was really the only play they had success with in the bowl game against Kentucky. Is they just read that C-gap defender against that tight front, and they gained an extra hat that way. We just added some motion to it just as a change up. But I really like it. We weren't great at it because we kind of added it late in the season. All right, but it's a really nice change up if you're a big power read team. This year we may not be as big power read. All right, like 2 years ago we were more RPO drop back type because our quarterback was a pocket guy. This year we're more of an athlete back there. So we implemented this stuff a little bit more. I think it's dependent on what you believe in and what you do, but I just wanted to share that because it's a nice little wrinkle.
Well, the other thing I like about it too, right, is if your quarterback's not a runner, run the same scheme, but now run it with the Y on the shovel.
Yes, you
let him read it and shovel it. There's some variation there that's nice.
Yeah, I like that too. I just want the quarterback is a good runner because you gain that extra.
So, thank you, Coach. I know. So Coach Cope asked, who is Y pulling for on that last concept? Is he looking inside out or is he looking outside in?
When we snap, I want him trying to work to that safety, but he can also help if there's any side, all right, to that backer. Like he gets those forms, we're just going to block like out and read the seat instead of kicking.
Yep. Okay. Let me ask this, bringing up Penn State. A buddy of mine was the offensive line coach for Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State the past few years. And if you've watched him when he was at Penn State and you watched him at Mississippi State, they'll run power read the way everybody else runs it, but they'll also run it where they're going to kick the end and read that backer. I know Auburn does a little bit of that as well. I've never done it. And I've told him I want to sit down and talk about it and how they taught it and what their rules were. Anybody in here run that where you're power reading off a linebacker and you're putting your guard on like a trap path?
Yeah, we did a little bit, Pete, and unfortunately, like I said, I just don't have film for it. But we did. Whenever we'd have fast flow linebackers, it was a wrinkle for us. And we probably hit it twice maybe throughout the whole year, but it was the 2 times we did hit it, it was good to us.
Did it matter to you how much of a squeeze team they were? Was it more to you about the backer or about what the end was doing?
It was the backer. More about the backer. Yeah.
I've always felt like it would be a great change up for teams that want to mesh charge.
Yeah, and that was kind of where we found it, kind of lucked into it. We were like, oh shit, that guy's really flowing hard, and we're like, how do we exploit that? Well, shit, let's just read that guy, and we kind of just lucked into it and popped one off and got lucky with it, I guess.
Well, and that's where I've liked it. If you're especially against an odd front, and that likes to get and reduce those ends or get in the bear front on short yardage, ground the tight end, motion a receiver like you're going to run jet, and grounding the tight end lets you work down and back to the backside backer and get a combo. But now kick the freaking Viper off the edge and read that front side backer. My fear has always been we'd hand the damn thing off and the mesh charge linebacker would smoke the tailback for a 4-yard loss. We're not good enough to recover from that. So anybody else?
I was kind of interested in the same thing that showed up here about 2010. All the Tony Franklin guys were running that instead of true power read. So we kind of, but I mean, it was the same thing where they trapped the ends and reading him, but that was also, they did it out of Trey with that little nasty split instead of grounding Evan Ingram over there. And he just cracked the mic and they're off and running with the quarterback, and the end was never squeezing and doing his job because of the eye candy.
That makes sense. Yeah, Hillgrove, they always had some nice ways of getting to all that stuff for sure. And having Evan Ingram, as versatile as he was, certainly helped. So anybody else that runs power, that's got some nice wrinkles, anything that you might do to protect?
I do. I actually do.
Yeah, love to see it.
I will show you some. So obviously everybody runs power read, but I'm going to show you a couple of different ways we got to shovel off of it. All right, so you guys can obviously see my screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're in double wing set here. We're going to run motion, and we're running power just like I talked about. Our tackle's going to pull. All right, so the quarterback, now you don't want this cat to run because he runs about as well as a baby giraffe. So we had to figure out different ways to run our scheme. So we're meshed up. Our eyes are on the 5 technique. 5 technique starts to mesh charge, or we get a nice dent on the front side. Flip it in. and out. So second wing coming through. Now this wing right here should have went to the backer right here. He goes out and runs some freaking garbage ass route. So thought, especially for those guys who don't want to run their quarterback, we had a kid that he was very good. And this is another example. This is us out of empty, tight end back here. So we're going to run the slot in motion. We're running power read on the same exact way. We're pulling that backside tackle. Here comes your tight end. We're reading the front side.
I love doing that with a grounded tight end.
So a couple different ways that we've been able to get to it. And, I mean, obviously everybody is running that sort of stuff. And, but for us, I like to try to get that shovel in there to just, especially when you don't have a quarterback that you necessarily want to run.
How do you coach the shovel guy? Like, with the quarterback and working on timing, do you have to focus on that kid being patient, or can he just rip and run and the quarterback's got to make the decision and get it to him?
Yeah, no, that's what we're going to tell the kid the why to ripping and running, right?
Yeah.
And then it takes, I'm not going to lie, it takes some time in practice where you have to have that kid sit in there and he literally has to stay on that mesh and then decide to flip it or give it. And really we've decided when we're going to do that, more than likely we've seen a team that we think that we can hit that shovel with, and that's
right.
How we're going to throw that in there. But it's just another nice way for us to continue to conflict that whomever that C-gap defender is, and for us to get the ball on the edge. And it's a nice way to still run our power scheme without necessarily having that young man that we had a quarterback a couple years ago. You didn't want him to run the ball because he was like he was fragile.
Fragile. Must be Italian.
Yeah, exactly.
And that a lot.
So I know I saw somebody ask in the chat about running power read toss as opposed to the mesh action. I've done it both ways. I like both. I think both have value. I think especially if teams are going to trigger on motion, if you're a big jet team, or if teams want a mesh charge, I think it's the power read toss is a great answer. Has anybody ever tried to work the shovel off of that toss action? I've seen some teams do it where, like, whether it's the sniffer down or even split backs, right, where the back on the right gets into the toss, quarterback shuffle, back on the left is now working the shovel. Anybody ever worked it off that look?
I haven't worked it like that. We kind of did it like a speed option where we attack that end man on line of scrimmage and we shuffle underneath. It timed up pretty well, but I mean, we didn't do like the toss side of it, but that's a good idea. But we did more of like the speed option. That end man if he squeezed, we would pitch it, and if he didn't, we thought we would shovel it to the H back.
And you posted a nice clip on Twitter earlier today, and you were able to get numbers to the play side. And that's the other thing about toss, I think, is when you're tossing it, there's some good ways to or treating it like speed option. There's some nice ways to go gain some hats like that, especially because, again, a lot of us gain hats by using motion, but if that brings hats to the party when you trigger motion, the toss is a nice way to handle it. So I've got a general question about odd front, and then do you guys prefer, if you're getting an odd front, do you like to base the end with your tackle, or do you like to arc the end and try to kick, arc the tackle out and try to kick the end? I've done it both ways. Sometimes I feel like it just really depends on who your tackle is and how he's going to handle it. But is there anybody that just always arcs it and is going to try to kick the end with the fullback and arc the tackle out to that viper or that overhang?
We're talking about doing that. We've never done it, though. I think that's going to be our plan when we get a 4-eye and heading to the boundary. I think that's what we're going to do. We've done some influence with our tackle in our zone game, and I like it as far as split zone as well as running power. When
we run counter, we give our tackle, the play side tackle, he's got a tag. If he gets a if he gets a 4-eye or a 3 technique, if they reduce down, we want him to block down on that guy, and we don't want the guard to try to kick him. So we make a call to let the guard know you're outside to the Viper. But if we get like a loose head up or even an outside shade, we're going to arc and try to influence that end and kick the end. But I've never done it on power. I just feel like the angle you get from a backside guard makes that easier than if you're trying to do it with the sniffer.
Yeah, we'll block out on counter trade, but I think it's hard to root that guy out of there a lot of times, with power up there when you arc him out. I don't like the angle either. I like the angle much better for counter trade.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
It's hard to root that. If they're it's hard to root that guy out.
Well, look, a well-coached odd team, right, unless the kid's in a wide 5, he's reading the guard.
Yeah.
And as soon as that guard blocks down to combo the nose, he's spiking like damn crazy into B gap. And that's a hard ask for a fullback unless you're going to put that fullback right behind the guard, which is not who we are. So.
Hey, Coach, I just realized I have another way to protect your quarterback.
I'll talk to me, Goose.
I don't know if I shared this with you or not, Pete. I know I haven't shared it with everybody. So how we did it is we get in 2x2, and we bring our Z in orbit motion. Offensive line is running power read left, and we're going to run same side power with our tailback.
And yes.
We don't insert right. We don't insert well right here.
Yep.
We insert and follow this guard, but the quarterback just reads that in. Squeezes down, we're essentially going to put that flat defender in a bind. We can either throw the bubble or run him. I mean, this kid was going to run regardless, but it's just a way you can protect your quarterback. Most of the time, they're going to attack your quarterback.
It's just another way of playing triple option football.
Absolutely.
Will you run a couple clips of that, Coach? I'm sorry, you X'd out of it. Can we run a couple clips for us?
Yeah. Let me see. Make sure it's all up.
Does anybody else run that downhill power read where you're reading the front side? I've always drawn it up and I've always liked it on paper, but I've never really invested in it. Say it again, Coach. Yeah.
Is someone trying to
Yeah, it's breaking up. If you're a gap scheme team and you're not a zone team, it's a great way to get into just your typical zone read. You're just doing it with the gap schemes that you're already comfortable in.
That's exactly right. That's essentially how we landed with this.
Yep.
We took the power read stuff from day 3, day 4, something along those lines, and they get it, and it's easy for them. They understand it. Now, I don't think we do it here, but if y'all are interested in this, what we told these slots of the field is to not block this cat. But right here, I think they're in cover 1, so he didn't arc. But so, like you said earlier, triple option football, it's exactly what that is.
Yep.
But quarterback right there.
Yeah, appreciate that, Coach. I like that.
Another way, Pete, I know you like tight ends and stuff, and you put tight ends to the boundary right
Yes,
here.
sir.
That's good stuff because you demand them to set their string. But,
yeah. Pete, we do something like that out of doubles, but it's the backside.
You backside it.
Yeah, that's how we do it, kind of.
Nobody talked about 10 personnel power. Anybody running that?
Yeah, that's what I have right here, 10 personnel.
So, there you go.
Let me go back. Hold on, Coach. All right, let's see. 1 second, Ben. I'm going to highlight your video. Boom.
That's just at our 10 personnel. Like Coach was talking about zone read schemes.
Yep.
You just take care of everything, and that's another way, safe way to keep your quarterback. I mean, we tell them keep read, give pull, or throw pull. I mean, it's not hard.
So if you get a 4-eye on that weak side, is that tackle going to arc to the inside backer? Yep.
It's just it's simple and it's easy, and it keeps you having numbers.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Anybody else run much 10P power? I know Trip, y'all run a little bit of it at Brookwood, don't you?
We did last year. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
You know, did the same thing that he just showed. You know, we just that 3-2 box. We like running that 3-2 box.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I just run it so damn much I don't get one very often.
Yeah, we
Coach, I got an empty one if I could show it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. You should be able to share your screen, Coach.
I'm working on it.
Anybody else run much?
All right. Is my screen shown?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is our backup quarterback. But we had he was a kid who could throw a hitch or a wide receiver screen, a bubble, something like that, but not much else. But he was a senior, and we knew he could kind of go in and calm the game down if something happened, that kind of thing. So we had a package where we'd get into empty, and then he could run power, but with quarterback draw timing. And then we'd run screens or hitches on the outside. We had a couple different ways to tag it off. So this team, this one, we've already thrown a couple of the screens. So you can see they've widened everybody out. They're playing a zero look. So there's no safety in the middle. We're getting 6-man box. But both backers are dropping to start the play. So we're running power base. Or what we call power base, but kind of locking up that front side. And when the backer drops, he just keeps it. And it's a different way to keep our power scheme, which at the time was our main run scheme. And it just timed up with a quarterback draw type footwork where he's sliding into the screen first, and then he can take off if they pass drop.
We did a similar thing in 2008. We would get an empty, and we would leave our tailback back there, and he was just good enough. He could throw. We did never want him to throw freaking bubble to the field because we had our quarterback out at number 1 in trips, but we would give him a key screen to the boundary, and it was just a wrinkle for us, and we actually ran a little power read with him as well. But if you can loosen that box, I mean, it's a great way to run 10P. How many of you guys that run quarterback power or quarterback draw out of empty, do you feel like you get a lot of checks that give you movement up front to take that away? Coach, is that something that y'all would see?
I don't know if we did it enough.
I know when I was coordinating defense, and I think Josh Cassidy's still in here, part of my empty check always involved movement up front that was all about quarterback draw and quarterback power. And I was willing to lose a little bit on some other things to protect those inside gaps against those schemes. So I was just curious. So fantastic. Any other power wrinkles, fellas? It's one of those things. I know, like I said earlier, I love power. I'd run it all the damn time if I had the kids and it suited me. And I think that if I could live in 12P and run nothing but freaking mid zone and power and counter, I probably would with some nice play action stuff. That'd be awesome. But that'd be my life, but hard to do. And so we just haven't been in a place at Sprayberry where I felt like it's fit our kids, and wasn't what we were going to do best. So we've always carried it, but we haven't necessarily majored in it the way that I maybe would have liked. So what you got here, Coach?
Just our 10P power. We've always felt like if we get a 5-man box, regardless if it's a 3-2 or a 4-1, we want to run power. And we do that. We'll get in doubles or ace or whatever you want to call it, and get super wide splits to remove and make those cats declare. And we keep it super simple. So right now we're running power left. If we get a shade and we make a wide call, So that tells him to work outside. If he's in a 3, he makes a tight call. And it's essentially big on big, wrapping for the first backer in the box. It's simple, simple, simple. And is it power? That's debatable. But we've had a ton of success with it. And simple. And I think, earlier we talked about reading that end. We've done that before, but we don't do that unless we get a 6-man box.
Yeah. Good one-back power teams that can manipulate the structure and get a good box, man. It's a great scheme. It really is. How expensive is it for you guys? The one, when we have worked it in the past, I've just felt like it was expensive, and again, part of it's because we're not a heavy gap scheme team or haven't been. But when you start moving the front and doing some different things, I felt like it's been a little bit expensive for us. So that's one of the reasons we've probably stayed away from one back power. For sure.
The issue that I run into, Coach, with 10 personnel power against 3-14s is just, that overhang defender. We don't have anybody for him. I know everybody knows that, but
yeah,
you can kind of, I don't care to run it to the field. Sometimes they'll take that, that Sam or Jack and widen him based upon your splits. You can get away with it there, but I'm just a little apprehensive on, doing it at a Tempe. We'll do it, but I just don't like it as much as a play caller because I don't know against 3-14s what that guy's going to do all the time.
Yeah, I love it against a 4-man front in 10P. I've always been more of a fan of 11P, in particular Trey and Dub trips, against an odd front. That's always been my preference.
I can kind of show you real quick how I've done it in the past against the odd real quick. It's with the RPO tag here. Let me share. Okay. So, if we get an odd and we're running one back power, we're going to just automatically, the kids know we're pulling the tackle.
Yep.
If we get an even, then we're pulling the guard. But, we'll pre-snap read the out over here in a 2x2 look. If it's a trips look, we'll backside check it with a hitch or a fade. And then, that most inside slot, I call it a cruise route. It's really just a win inside slant, attacking the heels of that backside inside linebacker. And then my quarterback is reading here to here. All right, so if he's playing hard or heavy inside and he's taking away that inside route, then
work the fin.
We're going to what we call the shallow route right there.
I like that. That's a nice way to handle it.
I like that. That's good.
If the weak side backer walks up on the line right now, is it an automatic? You're throwing the ball, or are you gonna?
Yes, he's catching and throwing. He's going to communicate that to the running back.
Yep.
And you can do it in the pistol too. He's just going to open up to the read side here. And if I can minimize this, I can show you against the even what it looks like.
Do you always work out on the front side like you've got drawn right there?
Yeah. That's kind of just the easiest way to get the kids to learn it.
Yep.
You can obviously expand from it. And run different concepts you want to for the pre-snap. You could bubble it, you could run quick screen out here. There's a lot of variations. Obviously, you guys know that you could play around with right there. The other thing that we do, and I don't know if I have it drawn up on here, but at one point we would call a switch call. I know a lot of people were worried about some of their centers blocking back on a 3. I know it's not a 3 right here drawn up, but if he was having to block back on a 3 right here, sometimes they make a switch call. And then, the guard would just base out the 3, and then the center would pull there, and then you got the play side guard down on the 1. I don't know if I have one on here or not to show you. That was just a wrinkle we started doing. There it is. There's the switch right there. But if you're going to run this, 1, you got to be good at the RPO, in my opinion.
Yep.
2, you got to have some guys that can take on single blocks across the board, because you're not going to get a lot of doubles at all.
Yeah, I like that though. That's a nice way. It's a nice way to address that though. I like it.
Coach, when you're playing against that, when you're blocking that arc against that 3-4 you had drawn up, have you had any trouble single blocking that nose with your center?
Coach McKnight, did you hear that question?
He's muted.
He's muted.
Sorry about that. So we just tell him to take him whichever way he goes. All right. You know, when I was in North Carolina at one point before I came to Georgia, you know, we had a little 185-pound center, and he just kind of did all he can and took him the way he went. And then that puller will just kind of adjust based on that. So, you know, if he goes into play side A gap, then he's just going to keep driving him that way, and then the pull just gets tighter.
It almost becomes like fold.
Yes. I mean, that's what I call it more so than you know, one back power. I've always called it more of a fold type play.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you know, if you're going to run the one back power, you know, against a 3-4, I think you have to. You're talking about you're worried about the overhang. That's why I like it, because you can control the overhang with the RPO. You play teams like Collins Hill. They're 3-4 very well coached, and they want to cheat all the time. And that makes them behave. It solves that overhang problem, I think.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do, and I can kind of show you real quick. Let me share the screen. You know, if you want to get in more of a H-back type set, you know, you can start incorporating that H-back into the RPO aspect of it as well. Let me get back to it. Just give me a second here, and I'll get to it. But what we've had a lot of success, and you know, I had more success with this than I did with the other RPO.
That's good. I like that
play when we first got here in Georgia at Hiram. Here it is. So the next one will kind of show you how we kind of incorporate the H back in here. So we'll like almost like a little angled dump route.
Yeah, that's
we'll
good.
do the same thing here. All right, and puts that guy in a bind. If he wants to walk up and he's reading the backfield and he's scraping, then you know you got a big window there.
Yep.
And it also will start forcing safeties to start coming up and playing more tighter match and tighter man coverage against you. And then if you got some cats at receiver, then you're going to get the coverage you want.
Yeah, Walton does that. Walton does that a lot. They do a nice job of that. That's good stuff. Coach.
Yes, they do.
You know, when you fan that tackle to that overhang, do you ever let him pass that to let the fight that end up field before he goes, decrease some of the space he's trying to – instead of running at the end, every time I ran it to that overhang, the tackle's missing. So we sort of would pass that, pop up, and then would slide out.
Just so he didn't get too far downfield if he was out. Yeah, I mean, we tell him kind of, you know, he's not in a hurry there, but he can also kind of help out on that guard for a second and then make sure nothing's coming off the edge. But, you know, that's basically how we've taught him in the past.
Just be patient. But that makes sense, Coach, to hi-hat, try to get the influence and then slide on out. I know somebody retweeted a clip earlier today of Syracuse back in the day running freeze option, tight ends in a three-point stance, and literally ball snapped and his right leg goes backwards and everybody else has moved and he's still in his stance, and then he just freaking hinges up and goes for the load player. And it was as old school as could be, but I mean, same concept, right? Trying to influence the end. Hi-hat, pop those shoulders, work out right now, let the guard ear hold the end. Because I'm with you, Coach Hamilton, is you know, I can send my tackle out there. He's not going to land it a lot of times, not unless that dude's playing in the box. So I think being patient and using that as an influence is probably a good way to do it. But as long as you're teaching that guy to be patient. So anybody else? I know Coach Jackson, you may have something. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, man, I've got some clips of what you were talking about on your diagrams. I can try to show that.
Love to see it.
So this one is somebody was talking about if you pull your tackle, if it's dart or if it's a call. I mean, I called power to the left here. We got same side RPO, which I'm not huge on. I'd rather work this backside glance most of the time. But it's a same side RPO of this bubble. So he's not going to throw it over there. But against Colquitt, we didn't know what they were going to do. It was the first game of the year. But the previous year when they kicked their butts, it was tight 4 eyes and cutting us off. So we had pretty much decided that we were going to poke it out there. But, I mean, nothing's different for anybody except for the backside too. So if you look at it from the end, all we're doing, we thought he would be here.
Right.
But he wasn't, but it still gives this kid a good angle.
Yep.
Still got our double team here. We watched that. Pulling for that. So if the tackle was faster and got on that guy, we would have had a bigger crease this direction. But it, got to the safety. This one, somebody asked earlier if you ever read the backside.
Yep.
So back's over here. You can see this quarterback's eyes. It's really just zone footwork with his head over there. Pull up, and that's pretty simple.
Yep. Is that do your quarterbacks, are they comfortable with that, or does it just take a lot of reps?
It sucks because you gotta catch the ball open to your left but have your head on your right chin.
Yep.
So you tell the back that he's got the mesh, because you're just putting the ball out, so you can't feel him.
Right.
You just can't see him. So whenever we do this, it's not a different call. Based on the way I call plays, the quarterback knows that his read is opposite of the back. So he looks over and he tells the back, you got mesh. So you can see right there, though, he takes his eyes. He doesn't really move his feet at all.
Right.
I tell him to drop this one to get it out of the way.
Yep.
And really leave that one and just pivot. He doesn't do it. But athletes make it work.
Yeah.
If you're trying to just tell a robot how to do it, that's what I would have told him, is drop your left foot, pivot your right, so you can then pivot again on your left foot to turn and throw.
Yep.
But probably had our left tackle downfield. And then this was the one where somebody was asking about the double insert, and I had chatted that we take our tight end and insert him back. So essentially he and the tackle switch jobs. We tell him that it's a double team with the guard, just like the tackle would. That it becomes a jumbled mess because he's worried about maybe double teaming with that guard. We ended up later in the year, and I don't think I tagged it right because I can't find another clip, but just telling him to go straight to the will.
It looked like on the previous snap you had him double teaming with the 3 technique as well. On the last clip, it looked like
This one?
Yeah. Looks like he comes down with the guard.
Okay, you're right.
Yep.
So they made that call on their own. As you can see, I didn't tag it up here. So good call there, Coach. I don't know why they did that. It's not really the look we want to do it to. We'd rather do it if I've got a tighter, not a 3, a 1 or a 2 or something.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what this was, but I mean, essentially worked out. But yeah, this one was called. And so somebody also asked me if I called it. This particular one I did call, obviously, because I tagged it here. But he doesn't really do a good job double teaming back to this guy. But we do this when we can't kick that guy.
Right.
And Tripp knows, man, you can't kick Bill Stewart's defensive end. So that's the guy I practice against all the time. So we just decided to screw that and try to base him. And then take this guy through there. Now, you see they're about to run into each other, man. It wasn't something we did for a while. But they made it through there. And this is not a good team we're playing, so it all worked out. But that's the 3 clips that I told you I had that kind of gave some pictures to those diagrams you said.
Yeah. I like that though. Have you ever thought about inserting him backside to the wheel against an odd front if you can control that overhang? Because it makes sense what you're saying, right? If you're getting a 2, you're getting the shade.
If you give me a second, man, I will show you what we failed to do well against Collins Hill. Trip was telling you that, I don't know why it's not changing over there. I don't know what the hell's going on. Why is it not giving me all my clips? Oh, there it is. I hit the wrong thing. We tried, man, they were playing tight 4s, and what the frick, dude? I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on.
It's all good. I get that defense early in the season next year. So you'll see me trying to go against those tight 4s as well.
What in the world? We ended up throwing it. No, this is a check. That's not a good play. We ran more counter to this, I think, at the Tripp's point. This is something similar to that. So we're running counter to the right, but we base that.
Yep.
So we're kicking this and wrapping for that.
Yep.
Okay, so we went out. It's been so long. I don't know. We actually are wrapping for this and this. So this is the fullback, tight end. This is the guard.
Yeah.
Huh.
We end up throwing it because that's easier. Yeah. But it's all the same effort to get rid of this tight 50.
Right.
Oh shit. You got to throw it, or you've got to do some junked up stuff if these guys are tight.
Yep.
And in there. So that's the kind of junked up stuff we got. Reality is that's not a gap scheme. There's not one double team on that picture.
Right.
So it's not worth doing to me, but that's probably why we struggled to win this game. Because I had the wrong plan, but I think that's towards your answer.
No, it is, and I mean, because that's that's the thing. I think that so many, I don't know. It seems like a lot of people across the country, all these defenses, they want to get in the tight front and do all this exotic stuff. You don't have to, man. If you play an odd front and you give us 4 eyes and you can do some different things in the coverage and with those overhangs, you force us to treat things differently as long as we intend to be a 10 and 11P football team. And everybody's got their answers. And especially I think if you want to be a gap scheme team, you can make it difficult on offenses to deal with some of that stuff. And that's like I was saying earlier. I mean, we go back real quick. We have not done a ton of gap schemes necessarily at Sprayberry because it hadn't always fit our kids. After the first year, we ran some buck, but there's a reason that if you're an odd front team against me the last 3 years, you have very, very likely seen some version of nub trips. Because again, I feel like I can dictate what you're going to do, and I can, where you choose to play that weak linebacker is going to determine what I end up doing, schematically. If you want to bring him into the box, I feel like I've got numbers, whether it's to work a 3-man concept like snag or just to throw my keys. And if you want to expand him, well, I feel like now I've given myself a chance now in the box to be able to handle things. We like putting the back here and running power read now back into the boundary. Down. You can count for everybody, get him on the corner, read the stand up right there, make the safety fit the alley. Or, for us, we'll and this is with a quarterback that's in bubble wrap. I like one back power here because we can go down, we can base him wherever he is, we can still work a combo here. And if you do get a 4-eye, I love being able to dart it and come back and attack that way. So I think there's things if you play with the tight end, obviously you can do from a formation standpoint, but You don't have
we
to.
used to do that a lot, Coach. When we get 3-man,
Yeah.
we do an upset, and then we would shift all our receivers our trip side, and we would stack them out to make that joker that
Yep.
player have to come out.
Yep. I've also always been a big fan, and I know we've done it. We play one team. We play what they do on defense is a little bit unique, and one snap they're in bear, and one snap they're in just a straight up odd, and the next snap they're basically in a 6-1. And it's just the way they play their overhangs is weird. So I've always been a big fan against them of we'll get in 3-by-1, and then we'll trade this tight end back across now. And now you talk about potentially having numbers. If they don't kick the front, because now you really put this guy in a bind. Still keep your key screen out to the strong side, and I've always been a big zone guy off of it, but I still think there's a place to be able to run your power schemes there as well, and to do some true gap scheme stuff.
Pete, we were big into getting in tray and getting in nub trips, and kind of what we discovered is we were great against everyone except for the top tier, top echelon teams. They'd have that cat that was playing jack, and he'd cover up our tight end, and he'd set him back 2 yards.
Yeah.
It'd been our bread and butter all year long, 11 personnel power. And then we get to our rival, and their cat's better than our cat, and we can't run our bread and butter. So we kind of went away from it, even though it's good, 90% of the time.
Well, I'll say this, Coach, and I know we're kind of focusing on power. I in my opinion, if you carry a zone scheme, the best run game against an odd front is a zone scheme away from the tight end here, because I can push everything out here. I can get a combo here to him, back to the wheel. Now I can work a combo here, and now read this guy, right? If he's going to be their dude, read him now. And I've always been a big fan of that versus an odd scheme. I also think now, the discussion earlier, power read toss, that's another great way. If this is a dude now with power read toss where we're going to get a chance to combo this all the way back to him, and whether we dart it or we pull the guard, that's another great way to attack that guy, because it's hard to base out on those dudes sometimes, man. I mean, a true high school tight end is hard to find these days, in my opinion. They're probably playing defense, to be honest. So that's another place where I do think that toss and power read is a nice way to handle that.
And to be honest with you, we were out coached because it was so good to us. We didn't think that way. You know? And it was 3 years ago, and obviously people have been running power read for a long time now, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is now, at least where we're from. We just didn't see it a lot until last year and the year before.
Yep.
But we got out coached. That's the reality.
Well, and I'll say this. I can pull up one thing real quickly. And tomorrow, I know I'm actually Coach G, coach out of North Carolina, has been doing a ton of different things. And he's doing a talk, or he's got me coming on tomorrow morning to talk about some of the stuff we do from compressed sets. And I'm a big fan of playing wide and a big fan of playing tight. And so, and it's ugly, and Cassidy, if you're still on here, you can laugh about it if you want to. But we're big fans. Looks like I'm starting late. We're big fans of getting in bunch for our zone game and for our gap scheme stuff, because again, we feel like, you've got to make some decisions with that overhang. And they did some real nice things against us last year with their stunt game. But what we basically did was we locked on right there, worked the combo back, locked onto the backside end, and we told both of these guys, you're responsible. We told the guy off the ball, essentially, you're responsible for whoever the C-gap defender is, and we told the point man, you're responsible for the Viper wherever he is. So if he was going to be inside eye, we had the chance to double him. If he was going to be outside of that point man, we were going to be out on him, and now we were going to be down and essentially doubling that 5 technique and working back. So it was a way that we felt, again, like we could control so some alignment stuff. And you'll see right here, just their kid on the edge is flat out better than mine. He started outside, spiked in, and we're trying to lock on, and we don't do a great job of it. But we're still able to get downhill and get into A gap. And if the back just trusts his read and goes, we've got a better play. I know I've got another look at it. There we go. Got another look at it here where the tight end, so what we should have been, we should have been a little bit tighter, but the plan here was essentially double this guy because he's in C gap, be down right there. Now we can, boom, choke that back there. Now we're pulling him, for that guy back, boom, right there. And we brain fart it and miss it with number 8 right there. The sniffer misses. And if he just blocks number 8 right there, we got to play. At least I feel like we have a decent play. So there's some things I think you can do like that to help you against odd fronts and against 4 eyes. Again, it's not a play that we ran a ton of, and these clips happen to be against a state title defense. And one thing that they did a good job of, I guess I don't have a butt shot of that one. Oh, there it is. One thing that they did a nice job of is they started, when we were in the pistol, they started bringing and folding this outside guy back in. And even when we were offset, they started doing that and forcing some backdoor cuts and just getting some clean run throughs. But, again, if we have a better dude here, and that's just me putting a kid in a personnel situation where he wasn't going to excel. If we have a better dude right there, we probably have a chance, and it gets us a little bit. I also think, for the record, that counter is a great one from that same set. We do again an alpha pistol where we can lock on here and be down, kick there and wrap him. Because again, I feel like it's using those compressed sets are a way that you can control where those overhangs are. You force them to make a decision on who the force player is and where they're going to put him. And that's all that we're trying to do right there. So I could talk about compressed sets all day too. So anybody else got anything with power, fellas? I've got some good notes written down from tonight, and I appreciate everybody that shared what you do. But anybody else got anything to add?
Ben had a question about play action off of it, and if I could just go back to that, I'll show a couple of ours.
Go ahead, Coach.
I don't think it's anything genius, but it'll give us a couple different versions. So this was when we were a big power read team out of both gun and pistol. And I know no one pulls on this play action. We teach our puller some rules about when to pull and when not to pull. And with the 50 team here, we weren't going to pull it. They brought their defensive ends almost every play. So we were basically going big on big with these tackles going to the wide guys. So this is just straight play action. It's not an RPO, but we're trying to hold this backer for a second so we can slip the slant in through the backside down in the red zone.
Yeah.
So that's one way we use that a little bit. And then back up a little bit here. Not this one. So here's the same action, but with 4 verts.
Yep. You get 3 on the bender.
Right. And so it's really nice with 3 on the bender when you're running it kind of to the weak side or boundary side, because it holds those backers for a second, which are the biggest problem with the bender, especially early like this. hold on. Here's another one with the backside slant, this time out of 3x1. This time we pull, you can see it holds this backside backer really well. And we even, we didn't know the safety was going to be playing this low, but we were able to slip it in there before he got there, because you can see our quarterback, it's not too bad of an action for him. He knew he was going to be quick. He knew what he was doing too, because it's 3x1, so he's only got that one guy that he's going to look at and throw to. So that's another way we did it. And there was one other one I wanted to find. Yeah, this one. So here we completed a couple bubbles and stuff like that. So you can see this outside backer tries to jump into the bubble area, and then looks really stupid when we're running Vermont in behind, or Fort Bert's back in behind it. So the safety was so far in, he moved on quickly from the bender and went to that number 2 in the great space down the hash right there, and quick bang in for the TD.
You know, we haven't run enough true power to work a ton of play action off of it, but we have run enough power read and jet motion, and we've got some good things off that, because it gives you the opportunity to get guys wheeling down the sideline and doing some different things. So, Ben, if you're interested in that, shoot me a message, man. I can send stuff to you. I know I don't have it pulled up right now, and it would take me a while to get to it. But I to your point, Coach, I like the way you teach the protection against certain fronts where that guard's not going to pull. I'm a fan of pulling that guard and sending him flat to kick that in off of the one-back power or power read look. I'm a big fan of it because I just know how much it can do to influence linebackers. But that's always the thing. People are worried about the backside run through and worried about the weak edge. So it's a nice way to teach it, to be able to leave that guard and essentially end up fanning that side. Is that guard responsible for kicking the communication across to the play side tackle, or is you just counting on the tailback now to pick up that guy that the puller would have been accountable for?
So the guard's supposed to kick it across. He's the one who's going to make that decision based on whether he has 2 guys outside of him on the line or not.
Right.
So even if we have a 3 and a 5, he doesn't pull, because I don't want the center to have to get back to that.
Yep.
On a pass pro. So he will kick it down anytime he's got 2 guys outside of him, and will lock on the front side. And even that last one I showed, the tailback should have picked up a guy coming off the edge and didn't, and got my quarterback killed after the throw. But we are teaching that guy to pick up that any trash off the edge, basically.
Nice. Appreciate that. Fellas, I'm going to shut it down. It's been fun. I know I've got some real good notes, and maybe reaching out to a couple of you to see if I can steal some film cut-ups. But I appreciate you coming. Hopefully you got something good. Don't have a full plan next week necessarily. As far as what I want to discuss, I've got a few ideas. So if you got something that you're dying to know, holler at me, shoot me a message, and we'll come up with something. But we'll be back at it next Monday and Wednesday. And man, I really appreciate you guys. So have a good one. Stay healthy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Take care.
Have a good one, Pete.